What's up, everybody? Hope everyone's having a lovely day and all that good stuff. Yes, Bern, I don't think that's going to work. You don't have the slingy.
No, I slung in here. I teleported in.
I don't have
Just add the effect.
I don't have the effects for that. I don't have the technology to do that right now.
It's just not in the budget.
It's all about you, Bern. So, as you guys have seen from our title and my slate, we're going to be talking our deep dive about Doctor Strange 2, or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange 2, whatever you want to call it. And, yeah, so if you guys, before we start, don't forget to give us a like, maybe comment on the video, whatever you guys think about this stuff. Go ahead and let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Ring
absolutely.
the bell, and, just keep on subscribing. We really appreciate it.
Exactly. We're just here to start the conversation. We like to hear what everybody else thinks too, so definitely do that.
Because our minds and our opinions are gold. Hence the world of social media and technology today. All our thoughts are worth millions of dollars.
We just want your comments to validate our opinions.
Yes.
Because it's the only ones that matter.
But enough of this hippity-dippity mumbo-jumbo. So like I said, we both got to see it another time around, right, Bern?
Yeah, I did.
And honestly, after the second rewatch, I will say I did enjoy it a lot better. Probably just because I already knew what was going to happen and stuff. But it did allow me to digest it. I know some people all my life have been like, why do you rewatch movies so much? I'm like, well, they're enjoyable. That's why I like to watch them. But also, it gives you new insight onto stuff. Like how I see more of the arguments of Starship Troopers and how that's making fun of fascism, authoritarianism, and all that stuff. Given that's on like my 50th rewatch. But, that's neither here nor there.
You got there eventually.
I got there eventually, yeah. It took me a while, but I got there. And this one, like I said, I got a lot better. However, again, this is a little off topic, but I finally got to see the Avatar 2 trailer. Hence my, not only was I super excited for this movie, but that was another big reason I was like, oh my god, the end dropped the trailer for this. Wow. And it looked amazing. I think I may want to do a video on just talking about that trailer. I know 50 million people already done it, but let's just think about that. But Doctor Strange 2, I still give it a solid 3 out of 5, but it's more of a... It's because, again, I see why I like it. Some things I were like, they could have been better. But overall, it was a lot better to watch it. Again, Sam Raimi's still a champ. Benedict Cumberbatch never fails to deliver as Doctor Strange. And just Elizabeth Olsen, dude. Just so much more enjoyable. I mean, she's always enjoyable. I never critique her performance in this movie. So that's all I got to say for that.
Yeah, no, yeah, I too am glad that I got to see it another time before we did our deep spoiler thoughts, because yeah, a lot like you, I do like to go see movies a couple of times at least, unless I just straight up just don't like them. But yeah, you do get to catch more the second time, and also you get to sort of watch the movie on its own terms. The second or third time around, because as much as I like to come into these movies without any preconceived notions or any expectations, it is kind of hard not to have that in the back of your head, especially for these Marvel movies when you're coming in and
I was about to say, I had high expectations why I rated 3, but with something like Marvel, especially how successful and how many movies they've done over these years, you kind of do need to have expectations for it, to hold them accountable at least.
Yeah, and because, this is a universe that they're constantly building off of, that we're getting new entries that build off of things that come into the past, things that are paying off that were set up, a few movies back. Again, and just being pure fans of it, you're going to come in and you're going to expect certain things. And, of course, with the title of this movie being In the Multiverse of Madness, that sets a certain sort of expectation. Again, I tried not to go into it, expecting one thing or another. So I do think that at least stunted my first viewing a bit. I won't say much because I didn't do a complete 180 on the movie. I still, like you, think this is a really solid 3 out of 5. But I found that I appreciated things a lot more this time around. And it's like you said, a lot of the Sam Raimi-isms were really fun the first time around, but then this second time I was just like, man, I just love a lot of these creative choices going on here. But yeah, that's where I stand, at least in terms of my non-spoiler stuff. I really dug that the plot was a lot more straightforward and a lot more simple than I was thinking of, coming into it. And I just really like the horror and the gore factors that they brought into this movie, which I completely did not expect, and I can't wait to dive into when we talk about our positives.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I definitely enjoyed it a lot more. And Sam Raimi, I think, did a better job. Like, I know last time you said you still like the first one a little bit better. I was like, nah, I like this one. Just, again, for me, I like this one better just because, again, it's at a different point in Marvel. We're seeing, we saw more Doctor Strange's skill set and stuff like that, even though he's no longer Sorcerer Supreme from Infinity War and Endgame. And it was a good way for him, but I will say it was more of Wanda's story than his, in a way. Just by like 60-40, that's basically like a little more about her from WandaVision than it was from the first Doctor Strange, and we'll talk about that. I mean, we're already in our negative, so shall we get that started?
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see that argument. I will say, though, that I do think I'm going to go ahead and walk that statement back that I said initially. I think I do enjoy this movie more than the first one. Although I think maybe the first one might be a little bit more finely put together movie, like in terms of like the filmmaking aspects of it, like script and all of that, like leading into. This one is the one I'm going to be rewatching for sure.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's why I've been getting complaints with some people, like in my personal circle, that this phase feels very disjointed, and it's just, it doesn't know where to go. But I'm like, well, again, we just got off a big event, with the Infinity Gauntlet and Thanos' reign. So, having considered that, it's like they're introducing new characters, but then these sequels, they also, like how in the previous Marvel movies, each one, even though they were on their own, they kind of felt like they were all continuous story. That's the one thing I'm like, you know what? This Phase 4 does feel like... It does feel all over the place. It doesn't know where to go quite yet, but I think once we talk about this stuff more, especially in our positives, this is leading into a way bigger event than the Infinity Gauntlet. So,
yeah. I mean, I do agree. What is this, Phase 4 now? This phase has been a little bit more scatterbrained, but on the positive side of that, I do think that the creatives that have been involved in these projects, whether it be the movies or the TV series, it seems that they have a lot of flexibility to sort of do what their own creative intents are. Like we get something like Moon Knight, which is very different from something like the Eternals, which is different from something like Shang-Chi. I'm just enjoying these creators getting to play in the Marvel universe and not seemingly having to fit their story and their creative intent towards sort of like this end game type thing. It seems right now that a lot of there's a little bit more room to play with, and I do appreciate that. But yeah, with that, the quality is gonna vary.
Yeah, I mean, that's how, if you think about the whole Phase 1 was like that with Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, then Captain America, Thor. They all were their own different movies in their own right. So, I think that's just, history will repeat itself with Marvel. But I'm still enjoying it. I'm having a fun time. I'm not trying to think about it too much. So, but yeah, my first negative with this one was just the fact that Mordo, Earth 616 Mordo, he was nowhere near to be seen at all in this movie, just because, rewatching the first one was like, they hinted, especially at the post-credit scene, he's going to kill off wizards and sorcerers. He's going to basically take down the establishment, especially, and go after Doctor Strange. But then he was nowhere to be found. But I did see there was a thing that Wanda was supposed to kill him in the beginning of the movie, as a
beheaded,
scene.
Yeah.
Kind of like the first one, which is interesting. But that never happened, so I was like, I just wish we kind of kept that going, just because I think they could have, maybe it would have been too complicated to weave that story in while he's fighting Wanda. I don't know, but that was just one of the things I was thinking, is yeah, that's a little it's like what the hell happened here kind of thing. You know?
Yeah, and I can see how that can be a little bit narratively confusing. Like if we were to watch these two Doctor Strange 1 and now 2 back to back as if they were their own soon to be trilogy. I'm assuming at some point. But if you were to watch 1 and then 2 immediately after, a lot of that like sort of narrative, especially with Mordo, is sort of just sidelined in this one, and I can see that being a negative for a lot of people. I do kind of like the idea that maybe he might be at least one of the big bads in Doctor Strange's third movie, so that would be pretty cool. And I do like that we got at least a version of him in this movie, and they do share they do have a lot of similarities. The 838 version of him is still very much a dick and not very friendly with Doctor Strange. So we didn't lose him completely, but yeah, I can totally agree that sort of narrative that was set up at the end of the first one is not paid off at all in this one.
Yeah, and then let me see. I guess the only really main negative I had with this one was just the Illuminati drop. It's still an exciting thing to see it in both times. Like, oh my god, the Illuminati, they're real. Just because for years, I think ever since Doctor Strange came into it, I myself, I predicted Civil War back in the first Avengers. I'm like, okay, the tension between Iron Man and him has to happen. Doctor Strange coming into along with Black Panther, who is a member in some iterations of it, or he's kind of almost like Batman. He's here and there with it. He doesn't like sticking with it as much, but it was such a big name drop. We had I think the cast was solid. How do I say Mordo's name? Chiwetel
Ejiofor?
Chiwetel Ejiofor. I'm sorry. I feel like such an uncultured swine.
I butcher his name all the time too, but I think it's Chiwetel Ejiofor. I think that's how you pronounce it. There might be another way. If there is, I am so sorry.
Please forgive us. Bear with us, guys. He was the new Sorcerer Supreme, took over Doctor Strange's post in that group. Haley Atwell returned as Agent Carter, but not from the one from What If. That we don't know what universe that's from, but I like the idea that she's playing around, and not only with is she drop dead gorgeous, she's a huge crush of mine, but seeing her in her own suit, I was like, yes, that's awesome. Just because she was a badass in the first movie too, dude, she's awesome.
A great translation from animation to live action. She looked awesome, and she looked really cool in the animated series. But yeah, seeing actual real life Haley Atwell in that suit and with that Union Jack shield, she looked really cool.
She was cool. Did not care for her jetpack though. That was my biggest critique watching. I was like, it looks a little weird to me. Let me see. Anson Mount returned as Black Bolt from the god-awful Inhumans show from 10 years. No, not 10 years. Pretty close to it, though. Came out
It's been a minute, yeah.
It came out around the time Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started, and that's when Jeff Loeb was still running it, which we saw him at a... Actually, were you with me when we went to the speaker thing for that?
Yeah. He spoke at our college. And it turns out he's not the greatest of guys, so maybe...
No.
It was just...
I feel bad for Stanley having to deal with that, but it is what it is. But anyways...
We didn't know at the time.
We didn't know at the time. But him as Black Bolt... The first time I thought the suit looked a little hokey, his cowl looked a little awkward. But the second time I was like, you know what? I'm fine with it, given our version can be improved upon. But for this one, that's pretty damn near close to the comics with, the tuning fork that helps him translate his thoughts. His suit had all the little black diamond formation thing on it. That was dope. Lashana Lynch came back as Captain Marvel, which I loved her black and silver suit,
she looked
very
dope.
War Machine like almost, and her mask was very interesting too, how it just kind of digitized. I was like, yes, that's cool.
Yeah, and it was really cool seeing her back because I really did like her character a lot in the first Captain Marvel movie, and it's unfortunate that her character's dead in our universe now. So it's oh man, we can't see her then, and also she was great in the last Bond movie. So just to get to see her here again, it's just this is cool. I hope they find a way to bring maybe another universe character of her because she's really cool.
Yeah, again, her daughter. Is it Monica? Yeah, Monica. She's supposed to be Photon, another Marvel in the upcoming Marvel show, I believe, and the movies. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, she's gonna be great.
And then the one that everybody lost their shit for, and both times I saw it, was John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, which he's been people have been fan casting him for years, and I was like, you know what, I could see it. Given his wife Emily Blunt wants nothing to do with superhero movies. She's like, I know what that is gonna, what that attention and what that contract will be. I'm not for that. I have a family. I want to do other projects. So I'm like, that's fair.
Yeah.
It was cool to see him in it. I didn't care for it as much the first time, but the second time I was like, I like him. I wouldn't mind if they did bring him onto the MCU as Mr. Fantastic. But what everybody also has to remember, even though it's like, well, no, he has to be because he's in there. I'm like, not necessarily, because if Loki and Spider-Man have showed us, not every version of their character has to look the same. Yeah. So we could get a much younger Mr. Fantastic in the Earth 616 universe, like the main MCU. And then, Patrick Stewart coming on with... I think the best one was Patrick Stewart is Professor X with just that... The one from the TV
the
show,
90s cartoon.
Just the yellow wheelchair. It looked a lot bigger than I thought, but then looking at pictures from the show, I was like, no, that's about the right size. It's basically right. It's like a little car for him. It was a really cool moment. However, I did not care for the fact that they were cannon fodder for Scarlet Witch, just because it's like, man, these are some big heroes. These are some of the best that we have in any comic iteration, in all honesty. And they just get killed off within seconds. So that whole name drop and stuff was kind of all for nothing. But we'll bounce back to that in the positives. I thought, this is a very dicey line we're going with in the multiverse era of Marvel, where, yeah, we can toss out all these other characters, these cool actors playing them and stuff. But if they're not going to keep coming back, or if they're going to die off quickly or something, it's like, what was the point? It can almost feel like it's a wasted time for not only the story, but also the fans. You know what I mean, Bern?
Yeah, no, I do agree with that aspect. Because the last thing you want to happen, and with this the multiverse being like an actual like story point now, presumably going forward too, is that like you said, that we'll see characters that kind of just come in and then they're one-offs essentially, and this movie kind of did the thing that I was afraid Spider-Man No Way Home would do with the other two versions of Peter, is just to be like glorified cameos where they just come in and serve just sort of like an action scene purpose, don't really like weave themselves into the narrative too much, and don't really contribute to the main character's overall story. And we kind of got that a little bit here, but I do like... In the end, I do like how they were used in sort of a like a devilishly masochistic type of way. I was just like, it felt almost like, I will save those thoughts for the positives.
Save it for the positives. We'll dive more into that in a few minutes.
Okay, but yeah, just on the pure negative aspects of that, I wish there could have been more than glorified cameos, but I'm not too mad at it. I guess I'll say that.
That's totally fair. But again, I'm gonna bounce back to that more in the positives. And then the last negative I really have overall for this movie is that I think it played it too safe with the multiverse concept. Like, given Spider-Man had the multiverse come to them with Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, Willem Dafoe, like they came into our world, and that's how you could say, well, we didn't go to other worlds in that one, so that's safe. True. But that made more sense for Spider-Man's plot. Where this one being the multiverse of madness, I thought we were going to get a lot more versions of maybe Doctor Strange, other heroes like Wanda as well. And I thought we were going to see way more universes, or hinting at bigger things in Marvel. But it was very contained into basically ours and Earth 838s. And again, it was just like, I just remember feeling like both, the first time than the second time, was just, that's it? That's all we did? Like, that's not very maddening of the multiverse, to be honest, but okay. And again, I think it's, given this is also Sam Raimi's first toe dipped into the greater MCU, I can understand why maybe they didn't want to take risks. Like, you know what, let's just play it safe a little. But then the marketing team did a great job, not in the best benefit of just, oh my god, it's gonna be so much epic of a story, we can see so much shit. It's like, no, not really. No, we don't. So that's how I felt. I was just disappointed in the fact of that aspect of it.
Yeah, because it does kind of feel like we were in the marketing at least sold a different type of movie, and I do agree with you that I do feel like in certain aspects of the multiverse it did, like we said in our spoiler free review, it did feel like it played it a bit safer. We predominantly spent most of our time in just two universes. So yeah, on that aspect, I thought maybe they could have pushed it a little bit further and maybe at least gone to a couple more universes, but that ended up not being the story. Like I feel maybe if they, I think honestly, like maybe if it had just been something as little as a title change, not the title being Multiverse of Madness, maybe being like the Dark Hold of Madness or something like that, or the Madness of the Dark Hold or something like that. That could have like at least set some expectations back a bit.
Yeah.
because yeah, like when you have a multiverse in the title, you expect there to be a lot of multiverse hopping. But yeah, so that was a little like a bit of a negative where I thought, okay, maybe they could have used this concept a little bit more. But I guess to briefly like touch on like the positive aspects of it, I do think that the direction that they did go was good. It's just not the one I was expecting, and it was not the one that at least we were sold in the marketing. So yeah, that is a ding on it, that we were sort of promised something and we got something totally different. Although that something different was pretty cool in my opinion.
We should sue Marvel for false advertisement, and we'll put that into the budget.
There you go. I could get my sparks now.
That's like, oh, I blew all the budget. All the money went from that lawsuit. We put it into that. So
yeah,
I hope you guys loved it.
Yeah, if you guys see it in the beginning, then it worked.
It's just movie magic. Any other cons or negatives you want to talk about before we start dipping into the positives?
Yeah, I think the biggest negative for me ended up being the pacing of the movie, where right from the get go it is like a breakneck pace, and on one aspect it does help to keep the movie entertaining throughout, where it's just go go go, but at the same time I do feel like they sort of undercut some of the character development that we got in the movie. It feels like we were in a rush to go from one action sequence to the next, while anything in between was sort of just exposition and just dialogue, sort of expounding on like what was happening or what was about to happen. So it felt like characters were just sort of serving the plot, other than the other way around, where it would be the plot serving the characters. Not that the characters don't go through character arcs. I think our three central characters do, in fact, have pretty good character arcs. It's just that it feels like, because of the way the movie is structured, it sort of didn't help those land as well as they could have had they slowed certain things down and had they given the movie a little bit more time to breathe. But yeah, it was all in service of the plot and having it be like this action-packed, fast-paced thing that we got. I just feel like that sort of worked against itself in certain aspects, and more towards the characters, unfortunately. Although I did like the characters and the acting and all that stuff. It's just, man, we were moving so fast. It's like I really wish that we could have spent a little bit more time with them, just sort of existing. Maybe that's one of those things that we're just coming off of Moon Knight, which was it's like 4 hours of pure just like character work. So that might have like influenced that aspect for me. But I do think that maybe given this movie like 10 to like 15 more minutes of just character moments, I think that would have served it a little bit better.
When you say character moments, do you mean for like the only two I'm thinking of that I could see argument for be what Miss America and Doctor Strange?
Yeah, mainly with America Chavez's character, because and the way it is now, she is a little bit more of a plot device than the character. She's the one that that Wanda's after, and the one that she's like chasing throughout this movie. And her her character arc is essentially, it's one that we've seen before. It's a little bit cliche where when you see a character in the beginning of a movie say, I don't know how to control my powers, by the end of it they're gonna be able to control their powers. So I felt like, okay, that seems pretty simple. But a lot of the cool things, with Marvel, we do get traditional character arcs, but it feels like a lot of the work in between, the beginning and the end of the movie endear us to those characters a lot. And because we have moments to connect with them. And here, outside of the moment where we get her flashback, of like her and her parents and stuff, and what happened and how she lost him and how she's been on the run essentially in the multiverse. There wasn't anything more outside of that to make me really like this character and to grow attached to this character. Nothing as much as, which is kind of similar, like the introduction of Spider-Man in Civil War. Immediately we were kind of endeared to him in that moment of him and Tony Stark just kind of talking in his bedroom. I just needed something like a little bit of a moment like that for America to really get behind her. Not that I'm not interested in the character. I think the actress did a pretty serviceable job, and I'm really excited to see where she goes in the future. And then I guess that's one of the good things about this interconnected universe is that her story's not going to end here. But just, I feel like her introduction could have had a little bit of more emotional impact than it did. Where as it stands now, it's a little bit more of just a plot thing.
Yeah, I mean, now that you point that out, I'm like thinking back, she could have had a little more dialogue of herself and maybe a moment or two of her trying to control her powers or something. Maybe a little more coaching from Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Like maybe some moments throughout the plot of her and Doctor Strange trying to, like help her figure out like what is the impetus of her powers and how she can sort of focus it and stuff. And it feels like we got that like at the very end where we see her like in Comertage, like learning to be a sorcerer. But I felt like there could have been a little bit more sprinkles of moments between her and Doctor Strange throughout the movie where he's kind of like coaching her, so that way by the end of the movie when he's giving her that speech like, you've been able to do this whole on your all along, you have the power to control it. I feel like that could have had a little bit more of a oomph, at the end, had it been sort of, laid out throughout the plot.
Exactly, but no, that's definitely a fair critique of that. Just because they did move through things pretty quickly, but then there were some parts I was like, not. Yeah, they just didn't stretch out certain things enough to really impact the movie. But, that's fair. Shall we get into the positives, Burn?
Yeah, lots of cool stuff to talk about, so I'm ready.
So I know we were just talking about it, but America Chavez, aka Miss America, I really liked how they brought her comic book power to life, where she punches star-shaped portals into the multiverse. Because they could have just totally done it like the more down way where it's just a wormhole or something into it, but I thought that was really cool. And I did love the actor for it. I can't say her first name, and I apologize.
It's Xochitl Gomez.
Sochi? Really?
Yeah, Xochitl Gomez. The X is S, essentially.
But what about the T and the L?
It's silent? Okay. I guess, yeah.
Xochitl Gomez. Thank you. Now I know how to say it. Xochitl Gomez. She was her first, I think this is her first movie ever. Awesome. She was really cool. Just because I have a friend who cosplays as Miss America, so when I saw that jacket, I was like, "Yep, that's her. I know that." So shout out to my homie Gabs for doing that. And what else was I gonna say? You know what? I'll come back to my other positive. Burn. What did you like about this movie? Like,
I guess my first positive is just how dark and like gory and scary this movie gets. I mean,
it got horrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we made allusions to the Illuminati and them getting killed, but that was, I think, to me, like the biggest standout sequence. Where Wanda goes on full on monster movie villain, and it came as a surprise to me because I was expecting like this sort of multiversal romp, through different universes, possibly them fighting like other Doctor Stranges or something. I didn't really know what I was expecting going in terms of plot, but I was not expecting a monster movie with Wanda as the central villain, and she was scary. I would say that.
This is basically if Evil Dead was a superhero movie. That's what Scarlet was, especially when she dreamwalked into her other self in 838 and just went on that killing spree at the Illuminati's home base, where the Black Bolt part, that was damn near like what the fuck. Just because you say when Mr. Fantastic's trying to flex like Black Bolt can kill you with one word, and she's like, what mouth? And then just Matrix like, and then he tries to speak, like open up his mouth. The way his brain caved in was like, oh, everybody's like, oh shit,
brutal.
Oh my god, he just killed himself. Like I would have never seen that coming. And then just turned him into Mr. Fantastic into freaking string. Basically, he was a stringhead guy. Just burst his brains into nothing.
Little pop head at the end. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, my god, that was just crazy. And then again, I felt bad for I loved Peggy Carter, but then seeing the way she died. Again, this is why I didn't like it, but I liked this scene because we name dropped these characters, but they were super arrogant. Like, oh, we're not worried about a Dreamwalker. We're about you. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? He's telling you there's somebody worse than him. Why would you not take that seriously?
Yeah.
So they all kind of paid the price for that, especially when she's like, I could do this all day, which I was like, yes, get it.
Yes, you can. And then, oh no, no,
Yeah,
you can't.
right after that, she flings the shield back at her, and like, her body just falls in half. Like, oh my god. I was like, Captain! And then even though Captain Marvel, Maria Rambeau, she puts up her big fight. And I like that Sam Raimi, they did this as a kind of like that whole debate, who's stronger, Scarlet Witch or Captain Marvel? And I'm like, Scarlet Witch is definitely stronger. It's
no debate anymore. Like, if anyone's having a debate, you're tripping, because I think this movie laid it out perfectly. Who is the strongest character in the MCU?
Even in the comics, and that's what I loved about this. That's another positive, is that Scarlet Witch was so OP, and there's a reason why. She has been a big threat / big hero since day one. The amount of shit she can cause, havoc, both good and bad, is astronomical. And then ever since WandaVision, where she embraced her moniker of the Scarlet Witch, even though she's been possessed by the Darkhold this whole movie, I think that's what some people were criticizing for, is like, there's a complete 180 on Wanda. I'm like, no, not really. This book, the whole point of the Darkhold and like WandaVision was that it was taken. People have been taking advantage of her, and the book took advantage of her feelings of wanting to be with her family. Just taking a mother's love and just roiding it out. 100%. And also, Bern, I know we were kind of talking about before, but I think I do like WandaVision's her sleeveless look better. Like, compared to her like full sleeves look in this movie. I think the design was better in the show, but
yeah, I like her design in this movie better, just because it's a little bit more scary, I guess. And just to like just finish my point on that. Yeah, just the way that they characterize her throughout the movie. With her, like, from the beginning of her like taking down Commodage, and like how she uses her powers there, crawling out of like the reflections and stuff, and then everything she does in the Illuminati facility to from going and killing them in brutal fashion to her chasing them through the sewers looking like a zombie version of herself. It was just really cool, man. And like then they seeing the Strange become like that zombie version of himself. It was just like, dude, a lot of the horror aspects that Sam Raimi has used in the past and in his Evil Dead movies, and to some extent in some of the Spider-Man movies. That's the scene in Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock in the hospital comes to mind. But yeah, just his sensibilities with like horror and just like pushing that PG-13 rating. I just loved it so much. And yeah, I mean, I do think there's a lot of pushbacks from fans of Wanda that I feel like maybe they kind of misinterpreted the end of WandaVision. Like, essentially in the show WandaVision, she was the villain of that show.
Yeah.
Like, she subjugated an entire town to her fantasy, basically. And, maybe we think, that it wasn't the case because Agatha was there, but she was sort of just there as an observer. It wasn't until the very end where she decided to attack Wanda and try to steal her power, to where she became an antagonist. But everything that was going wrong in that show was because of Wanda. And at the end of the credits scene in there, we see her using the Darkhold. So it's like, okay, like this was essentially like a setup for a supervillain. And man, she's one of my favorite villains of the MCU so far, because she's just terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, she's up there as one of the best MCU villains for me. So I loved every minute she was in it, especially when she said, stay away from my book, white trash. I loved every bit of it. No, I'm just kidding. But no, the horror aspect was my favorite part, especially the Kamartars thing where she whispers into that the one sorcerer, just run. The guy freaks out, breaks ranks, and when she breaks out of the mirror dimension with the reflections, that was horrifying, with the crooked camera angle, and then just all the doors slamming with the screams. It's like, oh god, this is, whoa, man. The witch name is not just a superhero name; she is a witch. it was just very well done. I loved all the Raimi-isms on this one, and I guess the other thing I really liked about was just, I don't know. I mean, I think it was basically just the horror aspect and just Scarlet Witch being completely OP. Just I thought that was I think that was a way better storytelling of a hero who's kind of lost their way for whatever reason and becoming the villain. They tried to do that with Avengers. I didn't mind it for Avengers. I know that was a big critique of Hawkeye, that he was a bad guy for the first half of the movie, but I think it worked a lot better for this one.
Yeah, and then I guess another positive for me is just how the action sequences in this movie. I know there was my complaint that it feels like this movie was just working to get from one action scene to another. But the reason I like this movie as much as I do is because those action sequences are awesome. I think every action scene that we get in this movie is very different. The variety in here is pretty great. Where in the beginning where they're fighting Gargantos, I think that big squid monster. It's like a monster fight, and then we have the scene in Carmitage where they're fighting the Scarlet Witch, and she has a lot of like the horror aspects of her shining through. And then the Illuminati scene of her just brutally murdering everybody,
wiping those dudes out, no problem. That, again, as much as I was like, damn, that's a bummer, it was great just to showcase the power that she has, the god that she is. So I was like,
and then even that like hand-to-hand fight between him and 838 Mordo was really cool. But the other one that really stuck out to me was the music fight with him and that sinister version of Strange. I just like, them using magic in very creative ways, and you can't get any more creative than literally taking notes off of a page and flinging them at each other while music is playing, to the beat of whatever those notes are. I'm pretty sure if you could read music, I'm fairly certain that a lot of that music was playing during that fight. But that was really cool. And then like him becoming the zombie at the end, I was like, it's just very entertaining. It's not just the same action sequence over and over again. It's very different action sequences that take you through the movie, and they're all really cool and unique in their own ways. And I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, that's definitely. I'm glad they got it right. I mean, the first one didn't have bad action scenes, but I think this one finally found it used a lot more magic in it this time, where the other one was just doing more of like the lights, like basically how they make weapons out of like that sparkly, like their light and stuff like that. I think this one had a lot more fun with it. Like I said, we got to see Doctor Strange doing a lot more spells where he had like, there was that car coming at somebody, but he was like a demon dog head to like get out of the way. And then to kill Gargantos, he had those like demon hands from a spell to kill it. So
that was sick.
Raimi, just I think he was the right guy to really know how to use horror and magic into this one. So I thought that was awesome. But that's pretty much it for me. It's still a very entertaining movie. I guess the only other kind of negative that I had, I know we're into positives, but was just the Illuminati looked a little too CGI in that one scene. Like when they were going against Wanda, like John Krasinski head just looked a little too like sticking out compared to the rest of the scene. But other than that, just overall fun movie. I definitely have told people it's not a bad Marvel movie by any means. It's just for its name, it was disappointing. That's it.
Yeah, and then I guess the last thing I'll say is I like I said, maybe the route that they took to get there was a little bit, on fast forward, but I did appreciate that this movie was a smaller contained story where it's Wanda, sort of just breaking bad now after all the crap that she's gone through, and sort of Strange going through his character progression of learning not to be the one that has to make the big decisions, that he can delegate it to other people and that he can trust other people to work it out. It seems like he was the one that would always try to be the one to solve the issues, but it seems like now that he's gone through this movie, he can work better on a team where he's not just trying to front the load of whatever's going on. That's what we get to see that the other Strange's mistakes were. They try to be the ones to solve the issues, and I like that he, in the first movie we got to see him become less of a selfish person. And here we got to see him, continue that progression of, you don't have to be completely selfless. You can trust other people to help out too. So I did really enjoy that aspect. And And I gotta say the absolute biggest positive for me in this movie was Pizza Poppa.
I was gonna say we forgot the best cameo of all, Bruce Campbell as the Pizza Poppa, and that was such a funny thing. Just like Pizza Poppa always gets paid. All right, Pizza Poppa, let's relax, and just starts totally putting a spell on him just to hit himself and everything. Just how long do you think it'll last? A few minutes? About 3 weeks. Like, oh my god. I was like, maybe the punishment doesn't fit that crime, but okay, man. As long as he's not gonna die, that's fine. And then the post-credit scenes were pretty solid for this one too, where the end of the movie, Doctor Strange has the third eye because he had a dream walk and used the Darkhold. So I think that's just, maybe almost like a darker self of him. Not really, but it's like, ooh, this could hint that he's kind of using both good and like dark magic.
And dark magic, yeah.
And then his future baby mama Clea, played by Charlize Theron, comes on, which looking into this character, not only was it a pretty spot on look, but I'm excited to see where that goes, especially for the MCU or Doctor Strange 3, because she's also a Sorcerer Supreme herself. And like I said, they're the new lovers. I loved everybody's comments on the internet when that happened. Just, he got over Christine real quick. And I was like, oh my god.
That didn't take long.
What was the point? Okay, guys, I guess that's one way we could look at it.
Yeah, I think we're getting to that point with a lot of Marvel cameos where even it's such a deep cut, even I don't know it. So I had to look up who this character was. But yeah, much like you, after looking it up, I'm excited to see where Doctor Strange goes, because her being the Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension and presumably having some relation to Dormammu. It's the implication of what's to come that excites me.
When you say implication, are you trying to say that he's gonna be forced into this? No, it's not gonna be forced. I mean, so he's not in danger. No, there's never any danger. And then the last credit scene. Just we were there. Marvel's really fucking with us now. Just to think oh my god, there's gonna be 2 credit scenes. You guys gotta stay till the very end. Like Shang-Chi had 2 of them that definitely hinted at the greater continuation of the story.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, I don't remember what they were. Did Spider-Man have credit scenes? I think they did.
Spider-Man No Way Home?
Yeah. Did it not? Oh yeah, it had Venom, and then it had oh my god, maybe Venom was it. I do not remember. My brain is
I think it was just Venom. Yeah.
Yeah, my
I could
brain
be
is
wrong.
just
I haven't seen it in a minute, but I do want to rewatch it.
My brain is collapsing. Oh, no. Never mind. Yeah, my brain's collapsing in on itself. But then this one where you just see Pizza Poppa still beating himself up and finally finishes, and then just yes, it's over.
Yeah, breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, just like the movie's basically saying the movie's gone, get out of here. It's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah. To a lot of people, it may have seemed like a troll post credit sequence, but but for those of us that are fans of Sam Raimi, and we know that Bruce Campbell has been in almost every movie that he's done. He cameoed in all the Spider-Man movies. He did the Evil Dead movies with Sam Raimi. So for someone like me, I was just like, okay, that was a fun joke one, along very much along the lines of Captain America and his PSA on patience, and Deadpool's sort of rip on Ferris Bueller at the end of the Deadpool movie. I do like these joke ones here and there, and this one really got a good laugh out of me.
Yeah, honestly, if it can land, it's definitely. I have no problem with these, but if it's one of those things oh, we're just purposely messing with you and it's not even that good, it's like, okay, then you just wasted our time. Thanks a lot. But overall, great movie. Definitely I don't know if I'll rush to see it again, especially because I'm I've already twice is good enough for me for now. But Top Gun's also coming out this month, so I can't wait for that one. And then there's that movie Men too. That looks horrifying, but I'm interested in seeing that. But. Anything else, Bern, or is that it?
No, I mean, just final thoughts. In terms of the larger MCU thing, this is kind of like a mid MCU movie, but as a standalone horror gothic Sam Raimi Doctor Strange action movie, I really dig this movie a lot, and I think I will appreciate it more as time goes on. So yeah, as in the larger aspect of the MCU, this one's okay, but as its own thing, I really dig this movie, and Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. If they're gonna do a Doctor Strange 3, have Sam Raimi on board from the beginning. I really would like to see him tackle another one of these, because this one was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. But everybody, it's that time. Like I said, let us know what you guys thought in the comments. Did you like this movie? Were you really disappointed by it? Are there characters you want to see come back, especially from the Illuminati, or maybe other characters that Marvel has not mentioned yet? Let us know. We want to keep the ball rolling. And until next time, stay bodacious and keep on ranting.
So everybody, be good, be safe, and we will see you on the other side of the multiverse. Did we get it this time?
No, we still haven't gotten it.
Damn it.